happy hump day.
Hello, Tracy. How are you today?
Good. It's really good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to catch up.
I saw you last night. Long
I
time
know,
no see.
last night was good. We went to a comedy show.
We did. We went to a comedy show. A friend of mine's comedian, and he didn't know we were going, did he? We just wrapped up.
That's definitely a way to introduce yourself, as in, hey, I'm supporting you. I'm going to be in the third row. No pressure.
No pressure.
No, he handled it really well.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It's part of the Sydney Comedy Festival. I may as well plug it. Cirque du Soleil, the French word, de soleil, at the Marrickville Factory Theatre. Go and see it, Jeeves and Paul.
Yeah.
Unite
so get your tickets in.
Get your tickets in, yeah. Oh, actually, by the time this goes out, it'll be finished.
Well, at least we can plug the name. You never know when a program will come up again. So
that's true. That's
true.
And we've been spending so much time together. We went to see Jay Shetty, the one and only.
I know, how exciting. I know.
Well, for you were particularly.
I was bubbling with excitement because, in terms of social media, Jay Shetty is one of the reasons why I log onto social media, because I love his content. I love his backstory, being a monk and then transferring all this ancient wisdom into our modern world. So and just seeing him live in person, in flesh, amazing.
And I mean, I've heard of Jay Shetty because if you're actually a coach, you can't not have heard of Jay Shetty. And what I love about him is the ancient wisdom, because I've been taught this ancient wisdom through some of my modalities as well. So what I find interesting is his interpretation and how he shares it with the public, how you translate that. I love that. And obviously, with my science background, I just love being able to connect the two, because this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I really believe that we're all connected, right? And we all have this ancient wisdom. It's almost like we came here and we had amnesia when we came out, right? And I think life's about discovering it again and learning about yourself. And I feel like you just know these things. But then if somebody gives you the scientific explanation, or if science catches up and can prove something, and then you feel validated, but you already knew.
Yeah. So that's the start of a very philosophical, a great conversation opener there for sure. But yeah, like you say, it's the way that Jay Shetty and a lot of coaches bring science and philosophy together. So
he does it in a brilliant way. Yeah, I love his backstory as well. And we love him. He's a Brit. We love Brits.
Yes, that's right. Yes, and he's British Indian too, so even better for me.
Yeah, British Indian. We like to celebrate our people of colour.
That's right. Yeah,
our brothers and sisters.
That's right. And talking about celebrating stories and highlighting stories, so I'm going to kick off with the first story of the day. This one actually came through on one of my job search pages, because I'm a contractor. I'm currently in between jobs, and I went onto my LinkedIn platform, and there was an article which was written up by Melanie Sykes. She's a model and also TV presenter in the UK.
I remember her.
Yeah, many of our listeners will probably know of her from the Boddington beer advert.
Oh, yes.
I think she was
one. She's a Northerner.
That's right. She's a Northerner. That's
she's a Northerner.
She's known as being, I think she's Mancunian, but she
fellow Northerner.
That's it. Yeah, I think it was the advert, and it was her tagline was "Buy Ek Love," because and so she was made famous, I think, back in the 1990s, and then off the back of that, she started her presentation and her TV career. And this particular article, which was featured in The Guardian this week, it did shock me. And so that's why I thought I'd share it. The article talks about how Melanie Sykes has actually quit her career within the TV industry because of the way that she's been treated. So the headline from The Guardian is "Thrown under the bus. Melanie Sykes says she quit TV after bad treatment by industry." So the article goes on to say, in a new book that follows her autism diagnosis, the former presenter of The Big Breakfast describes her career marred by sexism and coercive behaviour. And the article reads, For years, Melanie Sykes was a regular face on TV in shows such as Today with Des and Mel, The Big Breakfast, and The Great Pottery Throwdown. But having been diagnosed autistic and endured a breakdown, the former model has revealed in her autobiography that she has quit mainstream TV and the horror story she encountered as a woman in the industry. The book charts Sykes' experience of sexism, abusive relationships, and racism while providing an insight into the often toxic culture that she claims pervaded the fashion and showbiz industries during her career. Sykes said she would no longer be, quote, tap dancing for corporations who couldn't give two hoots about my well-being. She told The Guardian that mainstream TV just doesn't interest me. I'm out of that game. She said she hoped her book and her 2 films she's making would shine a light on autism, especially as her son was diagnosed autistic as an infant, and issues affecting vulnerable women, such as coercive control. She quotes saying, "I want to help protect children and women and anyone who's vulnerable. I'm just a tool in order to facilitate it." So her book offers a fresh perspective on women from Greater Manchester who rose to fame in the 1990s as the face of Boddington's beer. So Melanie Sykes goes on to say, in her TV career, she struggled using the earpiece needed for producers to talk to her due to the heightened sensitivities from her undiagnosed autism and drank to try to cope. She recounts tales of press intrusion and coercive and abusive boyfriends, including one who allegedly choked her. She alleges that she was often thrown under the bus by the TV industry, citing an example when she's on a game show with co-host Mark Wright, and that filming was cancelled as it fell foul of TV gambling rules. But in the press release issued about the show being cancelled, the line was that Mark and herself had failed to understand the concept of a game. So she said, "I was fuming, thrown under bus yet again. This industry was a horror story." There was also another time when she said she was persuaded to take part in a New Year's Eve special by an agent who said he would protect her. However, while she was filming, a colleague lay on the floor and stared up her skirt, which she thought was funny. "I was horrified and screamed. He got up and I threw a drink all over him. It was all caught on camera." She said she was horrified to discover when the show aired that it had been edited in such a way that they did not use a footage of him, only footage of me losing it. "I just looked crazy." So she goes on to say that she was seriously fed up. She's published her email exchanges with the ITM production team on her Instagram account, taking care to redact their names and email addresses. I'm just going to go to the most highlighted bit relevant. So Melanie said, "Women that ask for certain boundaries can be misconstrued as difficult. Many men ask for what they want, which is great, but we should just be allowed the same courtesy. It is our right to equality, but if you challenge their status quo, you are considered a problem." So, and she's gone on to say, "Men do not talk to other men the way they speak to women because they would be in deep danger of getting punched on the nose if they did. Not all men, but quite a few save up all their anger and anxiety and unleash it on women." She said women are often not diagnosed autistic, as for too long, women who don't fit a notion of normal have been deemed mad or crazy.
Yes. As soon as I hear those words come out of a man's mouth, I want to slap him, to be honest, because you hardly ever hear people call a man crazy for his behavior. Well, I mean, whether he's officially diagnosed with a mental, even if you were diagnosed with a mental health issue, I don't think it's appropriate to call anyone crazy, actually. So without any diagnosis, even if you've got mental health issues, it's totally inappropriate. So, and I just hear that so often, especially men talking about exes that they're no longer with.
That's right.
If I was dating someone and he started referring to his ex as crazy, that'd be a big red flag for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's for me, with this article that I read, that Melanie Sykes actually went through all of this throughout her career. It's really shocking and it's quite heartbreaking. I used to work in the TV industry, obviously not in front of a camera, in production, for some very high profile programs. And it's sad for me to hear that somebody like Melanie Sykes went through this experience. I was actually working on a show where she was co-presenting back in the day. And when I read this, it did make me feel really sad. I remember, when I was in my early 20s, Melanie Sykes is only a few years older than me. And I remember coming into work on the day she was there. And, she was a bit of a role model for me. I think she's actually half Indian.
I was going to ask because I didn't know that. She's obviously biracial, but I didn't realize she was. She's very pale, very light. skin. So that's obviously that she was talking about racism there.
Yeah. So yeah, it made me feel really sad because I remember, like, yeah, back in the day, like Melanie Sykes was a role model for me. She's half Indian. She made it onto mainstream TV. And she's got model features, but she also transferred that very well into presenting, which is a whole new talent. So I was really sad to hear that because of this abuse, because of the way she's been treated, because of these negative experiences, she's been forced to step away from her career.
So, given that you've worked in the industry, was it a surprise to hear what she had to say?
Not especially, but I did think about, why is this happening now? I worked in the industry like 20 years ago, and there were probably experiences that happened, but again, I wasn't conscious to a bias at that time. And I think, 20 years on, it's sad to hear that the extreme of such behavior is still being tolerated. And I was thinking, okay, how is this industry different from many other industries? I think with a lot of other industries, especially on the corporate side, I'm talking about, they have this structure whereby they've got a HR facility, they have a HR department, or they might have a governing body which comes in and checks every year around regulations, around behavior. But the TV industry doesn't have that. I don't think, Melanie Sykes, if she's in this experience, she can't run to a department and submit her complaint or talk to somebody about what's happened. And this has been going on for years. And that's what isn't there in the TV and advertising industry. There isn't necessarily HR departments or specific departments that look after this. And there's no specific governing body that I can think of that comes in and checks on a regular basis about practices in the workplace.
So you really had no awareness of any inappropriate things that you might have gone along with at the time, because down the road you thought that was just totally inappropriate. You don't recall anything like that?
Not in extreme example. I'm sure there is, but to be honest with you, I think it was a while ago, and one of the reasons I left the industry was because I did see a lot of actions which didn't align to what the values were and what my values were. So that's, I think it was little scenarios which then built up, whereas in Melanie's examples, they're very extreme, and there's numerous examples. It's one after another.
But the thing is, these little examples that we don't, that we kind of overlook or forget or ignore, they contribute to the big extreme things. They make those things acceptable. They make people think they can get away with those things because of the culture of the little things that seem to go overlooked. I just don't think people realize that. How the little things.
And I think it's about the timing. So, one of the reasons why I was saddened by this article was because, I had hoped that the TV industry would have changed, in the last 20 years. But it doesn't look like it. Well, from Melanie's experience, it's led her to step away from her career and have now take that opportunity to finally speak out. So, and it's just such a shame that Melanie wasn't able, and even if she did speak out, she wasn't heard. So she wasn't heard. Her experience hasn't been validated. It wasn't validated, and it's taken this extreme call of action where she's had to step away from her career to be heard.
I'm writing a book, which is good. And I mean, cynics might say, she's doing this just to promote a book. But really, if she just said she'd have made too much of a fuss about it while she was still working there, she wouldn't be having a job anymore, would she? She would struggle to find work. So
yeah. And I really like the fact that in this article, she's highlighted that comparison around men versus women in terms of, if there's obstacles or struggles which men go through, there's a lot more support around that and validation around that. Whereas with women, it's, again, what's wrong with her? Is she crazy? So can she not do the job? So, and again, it's sad that this is still happening. So, especially in the TV industry, because the TV industry is, a major platform where the general public go for, to gain advice, to learn about things. That's the platform that they go to. And the fact that this is the industry which is putting information out there, via this platform, is not doing what they say on a tin.
Yeah, and also I don't really think necessarily that, you said they don't have a governing body or a HR or that kind of thing to make sure there's processes and regulations are followed. And, I don't think that should matter so much because they're not isolated. They do live in the, the real world, and outside of TV, they have lives. So they should know what is and isn't acceptable in the workplace these days. So yeah, it is a bit surprising. But I mean, I don't know if it's the same generation of people with these behaviors or if it's newer generations continuing these types of behaviors. Who knows? I don't know.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Let's just hope that, obviously with the next generation coming through and leading the TV industry on that platform, let's hope that, we will see some change and we won't see other talented females like Melanie Sykes have to be in a position where they have to sacrifice their long, hard-working career just to be able to stand up for what they believe in.
Yeah, feel valued and respected. Okay, well, that is very unfortunate and disappointing about the TV industry. The next story I have is going back to the pandemic. And what happened was there was some research during that time about the switch, because we had to switch to remote work, working from home. And you have couples both working full time, having to adapt to this remote work life. So they did some research and they're looking at how divisions of responsibilities, domestic responsibilities, played out in that time. Now, the title of the article, it's called "The Pandemic Deepened Gender Inequality in Dual Career Households." And this is from The Conversation. That's the source, The Conversation.
Okay.
And it says, the switch to remote work because of the COVID-19 pandemic required dual career couples to adapt to a new way of life. Mm-hmm. And as work and domestic responsibilities blurred, couples attempted to balance work and family life at home. And it's specifically talking about heterosexual couples, saying that this return to home life did not reflect their pre-pandemic routine, but one that resembled a scene from the 1950s. Researchers examined these new relationship dynamics and found that although both men and women were actively employed, women took on the greatest number of domestic responsibilities during the pandemic. Working mothers reduced their working hours or left their careers to take on the role of homemaker, while their male partners continued to work. And this phenomenon where women take on a greater share of domestic responsibilities due to gender stereotypes is known as the gender division of labour. So the question remains how and why the majority of domestic labour continues to fall on women, and what factors may be contributing to this type of gender inequality. And it goes on to talk about the social roles assigned to men and women, culturally, at home, at work. So, gender stereotypes. So, like women seen as homemakers and caretakers, and men are considered providers, best suited for employment. So that's, the gender stereotype. Yeah. And I get annoyed. Like, I have some girlfriends that, have careers and they have children and husbands, and they would probably choose, some of them would choose to take that position. I don't know if it's because it's programmed, it's a part of programming, or if they would have chose that anyway. Who knows, right? And some of the women I know would rather share that activity. And also I feel like some men miss out on their bonding with their children at a young age because of that stereotype. That, they're not supposed to be the caregiver, they're not supposed to be spending equal amount of time looking after their children. And I feel that's a disservice to the men as well, that they miss out on that quality bonding time in those formative years. So I think these gender stereotypes can be quite harmful, but I think we have to be careful about recognizing that some women do prefer to be the caretaker or whatever. I think, got to recognize that. However, this research is pointing out that there was a massive, majority of women taking on that whilst working.
That's an interesting one because, I didn't really think about that. And it's an interesting statistic or piece of research. I mean, it's going back to a time when homes then became schools, or the kitchen table became the classroom, and mums and dads became teachers. Yeah. And I think after the pandemic, I think there was a serious increase in appreciation of the school teacher. Yeah. I heard from a lot of parents that I know. And it's interesting that this research being shared, Tracy, because I mean, I know the parents that I know, but this is mainly in England. It was actually the male parent who ended up taking on the schoolwork as well as their own work. And there was a lot of complaints by my friends in England who are in partnerships and in heterosexual marriages, whereby it was actually the male parent who took on the teaching responsibilities. So, but I think also it's a case of sometimes it's a case of figuring out in terms of finances. There may be, if the woman is earning more, and let's say, if the woman is earning more, then it kind of makes sense that, there's more ownership of the schoolwork on the male parent, or it could come down to job security. So, for example, even if the woman is earning a little bit more than the male, but if the male is, there's a risk of job insecurity, and the male needs to put in the hours in order to retain the job, then obviously those conversations are between, or would happen within that family environment around what decision is made. But factors like that, such as job insecurity, how much you're getting paid, who is the high earning parent, and also, what's right for the kids.
Well, yeah, but I mean, job security potentially affects both partners. And generally, I mean, it would be a particularly unique situation.
Yeah, where, for example, in COVID, I know that there was, during the COVID lockdown, there may be situations whereby the nature of the occupation means that the job insecurity.
Oh, you mean like the job
goes up? Yeah. So because of lockdown, let's say, for example, the male breadwinner is, there's always been job security. Suddenly lockdown happens, and they may, for whatever nature of a job, they may not necessarily need to keep everyone in the department. And that puts pressure on that male. And so, one of the ideas is, your productivity is being reviewed. And
but then I don't see that being gender specific, because, the sectors that were affected, like the travel, tourism industry, hospitality, don't tend to be gender specific to having mostly males and females. I don't see that being a gender thing. So.
It's a factor in terms of between the male and female partnership, as in,
sure,
impact. Like, I suppose I'm talking about the factors which impact this scenario and how and why this could have come about.
Yeah, but such a discrepancy. I think those factors affect both genders, so still doesn't explain the massive discrepancy. But what is interesting as well is that it says, gender equality in the workplace and home has greatly improved over the last several decades. And it's specifically in younger couples who reported having more equitable relationship dynamics. So you see men taking on more equal share of household work. And also the couples will have different expectations of gender roles, with partners making household decisions based on factors beyond gender, which is how I would like to have a relationship. I might be with a partner that loves vacuuming, and it would be perfect if you meet someone who loves doing the things you don't like doing, and vice versa.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, but that sounds like a perfect yin and yang, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, but I would be really annoyed to be expected to like to do things or want to do things because of my gender, because I just don't think that's fair. But anyway, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was predicted that the shift to remote work would lead to more equal division of domestic labour. However, this research publication found the progress was set back by the pandemic. In particular, they found gender division of labour among dual career couples worsened.
Wow. I think that the people that I know of probably lay in that minority, because I heard of experiences which were on the other extreme, whereby it was actually my male counterpart friends who were basically saying about, I'm doing all the schooling and I'm doing my job, what's going on? So actually the tables were completely flipped. So yeah, maybe the people that I know were probably made of that minority of that research.
Maybe. And you were talking about circumstances around these decisions, right? So they looked at some of the reasons.
Okay.
So the findings, worsening division of labour among dual career heterosexual couples working remotely was influenced by the age and the existence of children. So research found that couples 50 years of age and over had more traditional division of labour. I would probably expect that. Despite being fully employed, women in these partnerships took on most, if not all, of the household tasks and caregiving responsibilities. One woman over 50 told us So I'm cooking and cleaning. I do all the grocery shopping. I do all the out stuff. He has never been interested in cooking and chores, not knowing where simple things are, like where the rolling pin is kept, because he's never used it in the kitchen. So it's very much a division.
Well, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Where the rolling pin is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you know where the rolling pin is, that's it. That's the most important factor.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know, do I own a rolling pin? Do you know what? I don't think I even own a rolling pin. I think I use a bottle of wine the once a year I actually bake.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, great use of an empty bottle of wine.
Well, it's probably not empty, but yeah. Or couples under 50 participate in a more equal division of labour, with women and men sharing domestic tasks. Yes. However, when these couples had young children, women often took on majority of household and caregiving responsibilities. And then it says, for couples who did not have children, despite a more equal division of labour, women were responsible for more feminine orientated tasks like cooking and cleaning, while their male partners participated in more male oriented tasks, taking out the garbage and yard work.
So were traditional male and female roles.
Yes.
Still, they didn't transcend the COVID lockdown.
No. And one woman under 50, so this is the under 50. I'm Martha Stewart. I'm making dinner. In terms of division of labour, it's stereotypical. He will do the stuff outside the house, so lawn mowing, shoveling, and I will do stuff inside the house. There you go. That's the younger generation.
Wow, it's very Stepford Wives, isn't it?
It is. And overall, domestic labour defaulted to women who took on more home and family responsibilities, more feminine orientated tasks, and felt a greater emotional burden towards this division of labour. And then I just got to talk about women's feelings. I'm just going to read what the women said because it's quite funny.
Okay.
Women's feelings about domestic labour. So one woman over 50 told us, I don't like it and I'm not pleased with it because it's a battle and I haven't got the strength for a fight. I mean, you will have to keep going anyways, anyhow.
Oh, she just sounds tired, doesn't she?
She does. She just sounds tired.
She sounds like she's got to the end of her tether.
I know.
She's like the battle. It's like I can't go on anymore. She's like flying that white flag, isn't she?
She's like, I have no bloody choice. And then you've got women under 50 who experienced a more equal division of labour, expressed mixed feelings of guilt, gratitude, and anxiety. Many women felt fortunate to have partners who shared the workload in the household, but others felt guilty. I would feel grateful. I would feel grateful to share the workload with anyone. A housemate, a partner. Oh, what did she say? Women under 50 said. I
have to say, so I suppose it also depends on your own style, because I have to, confession time here. I'm quite particular when it comes to tidying up.
Right.
Where things are put. And so don't get me wrong, if I had a partner and they would do the, the cleaning and the dusting and so forth, that's great. I totally appreciate that. However, I think there'd be a part of me that would be kind of like the inspector side of things, thinking, oh, did you do that right? Is that in its right place? So why has he put it there? And so I'd actually probably change it all and do it all again.
Oh, so, well, there is that.
There's that.
Well, then you'd have to do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and like you say, some people take pleasure and out of certain household chores.
Yeah, exactly. Some people don't find them chores. I think you should call them chores, because I just think it adds an idea that it's hard work.
That's right. Yeah, I know lots of people who find ironing a great meditative tool.
Exactly. So it's just whatever you like, and it's not gender specific. Because I know a lot of men that like cleaning. I think, it's my dream man, a man that likes cleaning. What was this lady under 50 said that she feels intense guilt and stress and anxiety because I'm not able to participate in the kinds of food preparation that I was able to do before, which I don't really understand. But I've had the same thing in the past where I've felt the partner didn't do something as well, and it really, really frustrated me. But anyway, I think you've got to work those things out or get a cleaner.
That's right. That is right. Yes. Maybe getting a cleaner is the resolution to a lot of marital problems.
Exactly. Getting a cleaner. But I heard, and I don't know if this is true, heard that some guys do things badly on purpose so they don't get asked to do it again.
That's right. I think I've probably been in one of those situations, surely. So, especially if someone knows that I'm a bit of an inspector when it comes to tidying up and cleaning. I'm not as bad as putting on white gloves. I'm not a white glove inspector.
No.
But then you're talking about, I suppose, division of labor and pressures around that. I suppose it brings me to a scenario that I actually had this week.
Oh, what would you do?
And what would you do? I had a what would you do moment.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, what's that? A WWYD moment.
Yeah, WWYD. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I had one of those. And I thought I would share it with you, Tracy. And I thought I would get your opinion on it to see what would you do. So I'll set the scene. So you have a friend.
Yeah.
Where you followed her career from when she's been a junior in her position, and she's now at her mid/senior level. And she spent about 15 years working up to that particular level. It's a very competitive industry. She's been great in terms of targets. So she actually, in her approach, she's always had 5-year plans. And they've always been put together around, what her accomplishments are and her particular, where she's in life. In terms of, saving for a wedding or saving for a house, getting on a property ladder, getting a car, so that kind of thing. And so, and now she also planned for to start a family. And because she's at that mid-level, well, a few years ago she was at that mid-level. Now she's at mid-level, and a few years ago she started preparing for family planning. And recently she's had a baby. And her company have given her mat leave, and she worked right to the end of her mat leave out of choice. The idea is that she's going to be taking that mat leave, but she does want to go back and rejoin the workforce a lot earlier. The reason being is because she really enjoys her career. She's and also she's with a partner who is out of choice, is very passionate about being the carer. So, which is great. So, obviously there's options for her. Now she's actually at a point whereby unexpectedly, as she's been on mat leave, she's been tapped on the shoulder by another organization. And it's a great opportunity. In fact, it's an opportunity which she probably would have forecast she'd be working up to maybe in 3 years' time. But because of her hard work and reputation, she's been tapped on the shoulder for this opportunity. And so just before she was going into the meeting, she didn't know whether or not to mention that she was on mat leave. And now the situation is that because she's been essentially headhunted, she's concerned that the interviewers may already know from people who have given her name that she may already be on mat leave. And she didn't necessarily, she didn't know whether or not to mention that. So, she asked me, what do I do, Bhavna? Do I mention that I'm on mat leave or not? So, Tracy, what advice would you give?
All right, okay. I don't think this one's massive. I don't think it really matters. I think it depends on what the interview is like or the discussion, the conversation goes like. I don't think it matters if she's on mat leave. Is she just gone on mat leave or?
Yes. She's about 2 to 3 months in.
Of what, 6 months or?
Yeah, so it's actually 6 months for her
6 months mat leave.
That's what she's organised. Yeah,
so,
she's just not. Yeah, she's not completed the 3 months yet.
Right. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I would tell them they've headhunted her. They're interested in her. So I don't think it's a big deal that she's on maternity leave. She's on leave. If they want her, then that won't matter. And it's about what kind of organisation do you want to work for? Do you want to work for an organisation that supports its workers, values its workers, and is flexible, expects their workers to have kids and, is flexible around parental leave and it's not discriminating against women because they have kids or are going to have kids or whatever. I personally don't think that's a big deal. They might already know anyway. It's more or less whether she purposely keeps it from them, avoids it, then that could lead to kind of suspicions of mistrust that could affect the trust.
And that's what she was concerned about. That's the tone that I got when she was asking. That was one of the major concerns. Yeah.
But I mean, it depends on how the interview goes. Are they really focused on talking about the role and what she could bring to the role? Or does it get into more around, when, like, she might ask them, or when would you want me to start in the role? And then you kind of have to bring it up, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I actually responded and said, very similar to yourself, Tracy, in the sense that I think I was quite blunt and responded to my friend, and by saying that whether or not you have one child or 20 children, whether or not you're on mat leave or not, should not make a difference in this meeting. It shouldn't even be a consideration in terms of whether or not you can do this job or if you're the right person for this job.
Yeah.
So, and my friend said to me that she, understandably, she said, Bhavna, they may already know. And if I don't say it first, then they might get, like you said, Tracy, she was concerned that she might be seen as withholding information. Yeah. And I advised her around is to say that don't bring it up. If they bring it up, then obviously, answer the question, but shut it down quite quickly because it's not relevant to the job. I said, however, even when sometimes because they know of you, they might actually add it in the the intro conversation, the introductions and the hello, how are you kind of thing. And even then, I advised my friend, I said, don't put too much emphasis on it, and to just remember why you're actually there and to focus on your skill set. So that's what I basically said. But it was interesting because I saw this, actually, this information is from Seek, and which is a job searching platform here in Australia. And Seek actually have some advice around this. And there are 7 questions which are considered or deemed unreasonable to ask at the interview.
Okay.
And so these are the types of questions. The first question is, are you in a same-sex relationship? And that's an interesting one because in some job applications I've completed in the last year, there is a drop-down menu asking you about your sexuality.
Oh, that's okay. That's not asking if you're in a same-sex relationship, but yeah, go on.
A second one is, how old are you? And again, there's been job applications where there's a drop-down menu and it's tick the box.
Is it the range?
It's the range. It's like, which box are you, so yeah.
Is that a roundabout way of getting your range without getting your range?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, I personally think it is, but it'd be interesting to hear from our listeners and see what everyone thinks. This is another one that appears as a drop-down menu. What's your ethnic background? But now what I've been seeing is there's also an option of prefer not to answer.
See, I'm like in two minds about this because, well, where do I start? Firstly, I don't like the question because it never has my ethnic background. That's one thing. It'll say black, but I'm not black. It'll say white, I'm not white. I don't consider myself black because I'm biracial. I don't say I'm black like somebody who is black would identify. Do you know what I mean? So I have that whole other box tick thing, and that annoys me. But then the other thing is, well, if we're trying to be more equal, we need to kind of, you might want, if you're shortlisting and you've got people that, really well qualified, but you want to focus on more diversity in the workplace, then that's a relevant question. Yeah.
And also what you mentioned about, not fitting into a box, I'm of Indian background, but I'm British, and a lot of these drop-down menus, which I've come across in the last 6 months, I've not fitted into a box because it basically says Asian, South Asian. And I don't identify as Asian, South Asian.
Yeah, and I wouldn't identify as African either.
So that's it. And so that's why I've had to tick the other box.
Yeah. It's annoying, isn't it?
It's interesting. It's like, wow. So the other questions are, what religion are you? And that's also come up in a question. But again, they're now putting a lot of companies are putting prefer not to answer. This one, it relates to my friend's situation. Are you pregnant or planning to start a family?
Oh, yeah, that's illegal to ask that question anyway.
Yeah. The other one is, who do you vote for? I suppose I haven't had that many. I think maybe I had that a few years ago, and that was in relation to a government application.
Okay. I just think some of them are really not relevant.
Yeah.
Like
and a lot,
religion, for example, there's no particular problems around discriminating against. I guess there could be discrimination against religion, but if you don't ask religion, then you can't discriminate on it. Yeah,
and it's not as if a particular religion is going to have the advantage of a specific skill set.
No, I guess there's the whole thing is people discriminating against Muslims, but then don't ask people's religions and it won't happen.
That's it, exactly. And then the last one is, do you have a physical or mental disability? Now, I understand, I haven't been asked about the mental disability, but it's very, it is actually quite common to be asked about the physical ability. The reason being is because the company are wanting to make adequate arrangements when it comes to interview. And I think that's where that comes from. But it's interesting that those 7 questions are what Seek determine as or deem as unnecessary.
I guess this is to ask in an interview, but these are asking pre-interview.
Pre-interview, yeah.
So it's interesting, and it's not that straightforward. It's not black and white, because you've got the whole, more diverse hiring to consider, because you could potentially exclude loads of people based on their ethnicity, from interview. So you could be supporting the more diversity, or you can be, not supporting it. So I don't know, it's a tricky one. I think it's important to have some of those things, but not all of them.
I think it's a really interesting one. So
religion, why, who cares? Do you know what I would like? I would like people to select people on interview without names or gender.
That would be ideal.
Without names or gender. You just turn up to the interview, and then that's when they know your name and obviously your gender, if it's obvious.
That would be amazing, because I know that I've had lots of situations where because of my name, there's been preconceptions about who I am.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's improved recently, but 20 years ago here in Australia, it was quite blatant. They blatantly shared that, I didn't expect you to sound like this. I didn't expect you to look like this. So,
well, it's the same, there's evidence, they did the research, Google did it, a few other people have done it, where they say the CVs, they got the same person and put one name in English and one was their Asian name, and the same CV and the people with the English sounding names got the interviews.
That's interesting, because I actually did my own kind of little experiment about 7 years ago. I was actually struggling to get interviews, and I changed my name to a more Western name.
What did you change it to?
And I actually got 2 more interviews when expected. I applied for the same job, but under a different name, and I got a phone call back.
No.
Yeah.
What was your name? Oh, this is hilarious. What was the name?
So, I changed my name to Mia, M-I-A. Yeah. And then the surname I chose Farmer. The reason I chose
Farmer wants a wife.
Yeah, but obviously not in that context. Farmer, F-A-R-M. The reason why I chose Farmer is because my birth surname is Patel, and Patel in Gujarati dialect translates to landowner or farmer.
Okay.
And so that's why I chose Farmer.
Right. Mia Farmer.
Yeah. As a literally, I put it down, but I literally just changed it just because I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I was going through a patch where I just wasn't getting callbacks. And I thought, let's just try this. And I did. And I got 2 callbacks from the same job I had applied to.
I wonder what would happen if you did that now.
I know. Well, I'm not necessarily struggling for callbacks at the moment. So you
never know.
Watch this space.
Watch this space, yeah.
It's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. Yeah, thanks for that one.
That's right.
Thanks for that one.
That was really great. I really enjoyed that, turning the what would you do on its head. That was a good spin.
Yeah. And if you've got any more for me, bring them on. I don't mind. But yeah, I just want to re-emphasize that asking someone they're pregnant or planning to have children in an interview is illegal in Australia. So I don't know about everywhere else. But I actually have the situation, I've talked about it before, so very briefly mention it, where I hired someone who told me when they were hired that they were pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was very tricky for me because we were actually really desperate to find someone to put on some projects. Like we had a really serious resourcing problem. And it's taken us so long. We had these candidates, we'd found someone that we thought was the best candidate. We offered them the role and the project, we want to get them on, get trained to get them this project. And then they came in and told me they were pregnant. That was really, I was kind of annoyed about that because they knew they were pregnant when they interviewed.
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, I would never have been able to ask that. What I would say to ask in interviews for men and women is and this is what people do ask, are you planning to take an extended leave? Because I've been asked that in interviews. If I've got like a month off, if I'm planning to go traveling, I've got holidays booked.
Yes.
That kind of thing. And so I've been asked that in an interview. So I think that's a reasonable question.
Yeah, it's a great way. Now, it's the advice I gave to my friend on a lot of things, really. I said, it's about how you frame your situation. And I said to her, in your situation, if you're concerned about your work-life balance and that you want to spend more time with your child, then frame it from a sense that talk to them about their values, talk to them about what you've heard about the expectations and what expectations they will have of you. So it's the way you frame it, which you can get around your own personal situation. But it's also interesting what you just shared there, Tracy, about disclosing the pregnancy or child planning after you've received a job. And I suppose I've had a situation, again, in kind of like a flip side situation where I've been hired for a job. However, the hiring manager has then disclosed that she's pregnant and that I will be looking after part of her role, which I wasn't expecting. So there's also a flip side to that.
That must be rare, but that is an interesting scenario. Interesting.
Yeah,
lots of food for thought there. Well, very interesting conversation. Thank you. Lovely talking to you as usual.
Yes, well, I look forward to the next time we catch up.
Yeah, until the next time.
All right, see you. Have a great week.
You too. Bye.